Ah, yes, music and horses. This is horse. What is this? What is this? Horse blood. What do we do? BloodHorse Monday. How about that? Sean Collins, Louie hanging out with you.
Great start today.
Spectacular start here on the program. Thanks for making us the start of your horse racing week here. Of course, heavy in Keeneland here around the Bluegrass. Of course, you and I spending many days in Lexington as of late, but you certainly a ton of mornings at Churchill as well.
Yes.
So the old Kentucky doubleheader workouts up at Churchill, and of course racing at Keeneland right now. A busy time of year in the Bluegrass, Sean, but a really exciting one too.
Oh yeah, it's really exciting. You know, we get tired. You're interrupting my nap time right now of, you know, the post training
Totally
at Churchill
get it,
Downs. But, you know, we get tired at this time of year, but when you get there in the morning, there's just no feeling like it, seeing all the Derby horses coming out. You know, been keeping close eyes on that. We got 8 of them there right now, so been keeping close eyes on them. You know, staying in touch with the connections over the last week or so, and there's no better time right now, and it's only going to get better as the horses start coming in. We start getting the specific Derby training time at 7:15 starts on Saturday.
Yep.
So that's when they all come out at the exact same time. So, you know, it's going to be very busy 15 minutes for us. Looking forward to it. So it's no better time of year than right now.
No, that's exactly right. And even, you know, you and I were out yesterday, Sunday morning. You will hear from Kate Hunter. That was our target for the day. She represents the Japanese contingent that'll be running in the Derby this year, like she did previously in the Breeders' Cup and UAE and lots of different places. You'll hear from her about what it takes to get a Japanese horse to the starting gate, the Kentucky Derby. By the way, number one, it's tough enough to get any horse to any starting gate.
Yeah.
This story is really remarkable, and I think it's one that you'll definitely want to stick around for. She is spectacular. She has a really genuinely unique spot in horse racing. I'm so glad we got to catch up with her.
Yeah, and when you think about all the Japanese presence that we've had in the last couple of years, whether it be in the Derby, whether it be in the Breeders' Cup, you know, there are 2 big Breeders' Cup wins that they had a couple of years ago at Del Mar. Forever Young almost winning the Kentucky Derby last year, just coming up a couple of inches short. All of that would probably not have happened if it wasn't for Kate Hunter and all the work she does out there in Japan.
I think people are going to be impressed. I think the word is impressed with the process to just get horsemen sort of not aware, but motivated to look at these options, right?
Oh, yeah.
And she clearly understands it. There's a Sailor Moon reference. I mean, it's you don't want to miss any.
Yeah, it was a great interview.
It really was. Something that you and I have intentionally held off to doing. By the way, I have the Kentucky voice thing. Whatever's going on in the weather right now.
You have the Kentucky spring right now.
You and I were in Churchill. It was 40 degrees. It's 80 degrees out right now. My body is it's completely confused. But we intentionally held off on some of the replays, knowing that the Bluegrass was going to be run Tuesday. So for us, it's new on this show. And then we have the Japanese prep, and then we in the Fukuryu, and then we have the UAE Derby. Yeah. And so we're going to go through all 3 of those right now. You want to start in Lexington?
Yeah, let's start.
Right, we'll start in North America with the Bluegrass Stakes there at Keeneland. Of course, Kurt Becker on the call here.
Burnham Square has to go wide from last around Admiral Dennis. They move for the top of the stretch. East Avenue, the lead now down to just 1 length. Owen Almighty is in second position off the turn. River Thames is in third. Burnham Square still has a lot of work to do. Moves out to the center of the racetrack. Coming into the final furlong. Owen Almighty challenging East Avenue. River Thames seeks to join them. Admiral Dennis runs late toward the rail. Burnham Square from the outside. They've got to get East Avenue. He's got the lead in deep stretch. He leads a length and a half. River Thames is still trying. Burnham Square unleashing a final try down to the wire. Burnham Square gets there.
Great call, by the way, by Kurt Becker to notice it when he was in 4th spot, but easily making up the most ground.
Yeah.
And then he calls it at the wire. Good job by Kurt.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes those track announcers, you know, I'm sure when you have to make that call on the wire, like your heart's in your
photo.
Throat,
like, hey, photo.
Exactly. I would always default to photo finish just so I don't be wrong. But it was like when Larry Colbus called Beholder in the Breeders' Cup this stuff. It's like, how did you know in that moment?
Or the Derby last year, Travis Stone goes, okay, it was Mystic Dan, Sierra Leone, Forever Young, nails the trifecta. Yeah. Like, incredible. I mean, I have no sense. Yeah, that's amazing.
You and I, we both know we're big fans of track announcers.
Oh, and so, you and I are track announcer geeks.
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, you guys do a great job out there. I don't know how you do it. You know, I feel like I'm pretty good at, you know, nailing a photo, but I don't know if I'm good enough to announce it like that. When it's
confidently too. Yeah, right. No kidding. But let's go back and watch the stretch run here. There was a moment where I thought, okay, River Thames is going to win this race. And boy, we've got an interesting entrant for the Kentucky Derby. Very different thing ends up happening here with the Burnham Square. We're going to go back and watch the replay here. We see East Avenue do all the work. We'll get to him in a second.
Yeah.
We see right outside of him River Thames here. And yes, I know people, this is Keeneland, so the saddle claws are for the owners there. But in the white there, of course, River Thames. Is that a WinStar?
He's the red and yellow.
The red and yellow, excuse me.
That's
Right.
Owen Almighty in the white.
Owen Almighty, right. So Owen Almighty starts to make his run, but you see him kind of slowing down.
Yeah.
River Thames is on the outside here. Excuse me, you're right. I mixed up my horses here. But starts going, and then Burnham Square, who you and I, by the way, gave the nod to weeks back.
Yes.
For the best run of the weekend, the most professional run, goes ahead and gets it done here. I went to 300-point Derby preps. You went to 300-point Derby preps. How does this rank in the top, the top ones that you went to? It's not as impressive as some of the other ones I got to see, but the late kick, man, there's no denying this, especially heading to 10 furlongs.
See, it's interesting because all three that I went to, the Jeff Ruby, the Arkansas Derby, and now this one, the Bluegrass,
all just like this,
all deep closers. So, if I'm stacking the three of them, I feel like the most visually impressive was probably Sandman.
Yes.
Although Final Gambits was pretty visually
unbelievable
impressive
quickly.
Yeah. But the synthetic, I gotta give a slight discount and put Sandman up there.
Well, when we talked to Brad before that race, trainer Brad Cox, he was talking about the American turf.
Yeah.
Right. Even after the race, he was like, "Yeah, we were thinking about the turf, and then he won. Hey, how about that?" Huh? I mean, and I'm not at all sure that is that decision final he's running.
Yeah, I think so.
Good.
Talking to him, he's getting over the dirt great.
Good.
Seeing
Great.
Final Gambit out there every day, and Brad seems comfortable with how he's moving over it. I think that's probably a done decision. Both him and Flying Mohawk, by the way.
Okay. But Burnham Square, what do you make?
Burnham Square. See, even though I don't feel like it was visually as impressive as those other two that we just mentioned, I do still really like this move.
Okay.
And part of it being that, we talked about this back when he won the Holy Bull, how he has proven he can make those multiple moves throughout the race. I felt like East Avenue, kind of had it his own way up front here. And the fact that he was still able to get up there, he was still able to run him down. I know a lot of people are going to make comments, I think, about the time. It wasn't the fastest running of the race. That's not Burnham Square's fault. He was in the back the whole race. It's not his fault that they ran slow. Whatever they were doing up ahead of him. But I did really like the move. I like, being back at Churchill the last couple of days. I like seeing how he's bounced out of the race. He looks like it didn't really take that much out of him in the last couple of days.
Yep.
So I know it's weird that this was almost a week ago in this race, so it's like I've seen him come back out.
Yeah, I'm sure many people are listening thinking, what are we doing? But to be fair, it was on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
You and I were at Keeneland on a Tuesday, not for a workout or a sale,
which was kind of cool.
Race.
It was abnormal. It was abnormal, which made it cool.
By
but
the
yeah,
way,
I did.
Tom
really
Hammond hanging out, 61st Bluegrass.
That was incredible.
Baller stuff. That's baller stuff.
What a legend.
Legend's the right word. No, there's no other word for it.
Yep.
It's just unbelievable. So yeah, no, but with Burnham Square, I mean, was it the Fountain of Youth? You gotta help me out. I think it was Fountain of Youth or the Holy Bull.
It was the Fountain of Youth that he lost. The Holy Bull.
Holy Bull he won. Yeah. Okay. But when he made that move, when he was deeper and further back in that race, when they were on the back stretch, he makes that early move up the rail to get back into contention, then settles back into the pace.
Yeah.
He didn't do that here. It was purely a close in this one. But we've seen multiple styles from him.
Mm-hmm.
Even in closing, we've seen multiple different ways of him doing that, being closer to the pace, being further back, whatever it might be. That kind of variability, I don't know that I would pick him to win the Derby, but I'm 0% stunned if he's in the top 5.
Well, he is a horse that, if you remember back to what right after the Holy Bull, I said at that point in time, he was probably my number 1 Derby horse.
Yes.
And even though he lost the Fountain of Youth, I didn't lose too much faith in him, because if you remember when we talked to Ian Wilkes on this show, about a week after the Holy Bull, one of the things he mentioned was the target, now that he's got this win under his belt, is the Kentucky Derby.
Yep.
Now the goal is going to change to let's do the building blocks to get him to peak on the first Saturday of May.
Yep.
And so even though he lost the Fountain of Youth, it sounded like Ian had kind of changed up some things with the training leading into that race. I think I didn't jump off of him after that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I didn't place any bets this weekend or on Tuesday at Keeneland, so I didn't make any money off of this one. I should have, but we were a little busy that day. But it was good seeing him bounce back, and I think he's going to be stronger on the next one. I think Ian's going to have him prepped for the Derby, and I talked to Ian actually the day right before the Bluegrass, and it sounded like he was, again, those building blocks were just kind of, getting him set up. As now there's a little bit more pressure because we need to make sure we get the points to get into the race. They got more than enough by winning. So yeah, I think that was a good progress step for him, and I think he's going to run an even bigger race come the first Saturday in May.
East Avenue. What do we do? What do we do with that horse?
I was glad to see him bounce back.
He looked great.
Yeah, he
really did. He did all the work. He was great.
And it was one of those things too, where it's like he got caught at the end, but he was battling everybody off.
Yep.
River Thames, you know, he wasn't really getting to
several horses made runs at him,
and he got caught at the point where he didn't have time to fight back, so we didn't get to see whether or not he would have fought back.
Yeah, that's fair too.
So you know, he got caught at that last second.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
So it was a great bounce back race for him. Now the question that I have, you know, his two big races have been at Keeneland. We saw him, you know, that Breeders' Cup, he had that bad start, but you saw him kind of run a dud out in Fairgrounds. Is it just that he likes Keeneland? Is it just that he's finally kind of getting back in? Maybe he just hated Fairgrounds for whatever reason. Sure. But
we heard that about Sierra Leone and Saratoga. I mean, we hear this about horses from time to time. Yeah.
So, you know, I'm on the fence about what I think about him going into the Derby. I think we've learned that he should definitely be probably up there forward. I mean, he was sitting second in the Risen Star.
If he's mid-pack in the Derby, everything's on the table. That's how I feel about him. I worry about him being an 18th or something. That's what I worry about.
So you'd be okay with him sitting like probably in like that 6th, 7th?
If he's 9th, 10th, I'm feeling really good if I have him at the top of the stretch, 100%.
I don't feel as confident on that just because, you know, the Blue Brass, the Breeders' Futurity, he was up on the lead. He didn't really, even though he had that stumble, he didn't really show much of trying to get re-engaged in the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah.
And then when he had to stalk the pace in the Risen Star, he just didn't participate in the last half of the race. So I'm on the fence about whether I would trust that. But
I think what you just said is why I would want him to be a little bit further back. I think you need to save him for one big run at the end.
Okay.
I really do. And I think the added distance will not be an issue for him at all.
Okay.
I'm on that. I want to be very clear. I'm on that train with him.
Now, the question I have you, because I know you were a big fan of him after his maiden win a couple months ago, River Thames.
Yep.
Just what do you think about him going into the
Derby? I don't know. But I will not have him as a winner on a ticket. Yeah. I'll put it that way. But Belmont? Something to Saratoga this summer?
What do you think about his mile and a quarter? Because I know there were some questions about that going in. It was kind of getting to East Avenue at the end, but it didn't look like he's really getting to him. He was kind of drifting out a little bit before Burnham Square got right up alongside of him.
I think it's a problem. I think it's a little further than a lot of these horses want to go, and I think he's on that list.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's on that list. Sean Collins, Louie, BloodHorse Monday, hanging out with you. We'll head to the UAE Derby for this one. And another shipper that'll be coming in who won the UAE Derby? His name is
Admire Daytona.
Admire Daytona. You'll hear all about him next, but first up, we'll watch it.
Drops away with Flood Zone. They come into the running in the UAE Derby, and it's Don in the Mood who takes a narrow lead from Heart of Honor, who's trying to respond here through the middle. Admire Daytona fighting back as well. Good go here. A furlong left to travel. Don in the Mood. Heart of Honor picking up the middle now. Heart of Honor working through with Admire Daytona. Admire Daytona stride for stride with Heart of Honor. Good go down to the line. Tight. Admire Daytona, maybe, not sure. Photo finish.
Admire Daytona, not sure, is the correct call there, by the way.
He got it right. Once again, they got it right. At least he admitted he wasn't sure, but he got it right.
Yeah. I got to admit, I'm a little sad that Hart's not running.
I am too.
It's a weird thing to say, but I'm a little sad because I think if that horse puts a little bit more together, that's a contender. That's an absolute contender, but nothing to be taken away from Admire Daytona, who got it done in the stretch.
I understand the decision to not bring Heart of Honor over. It sounded like they wanted to. He's been in Dubai pretty much the whole winter. They wanted to take him back home. I think England is where he's based. Yep. So they wanted to take him back home to England. And then
they heard it might go over 55 degrees here and there. Like, we can't do that.
Well, but it's just going to be, you know, that's a lot of shipping for him to go to England and then have to try to come here. Yep. Sounds like they might be coming Preakness Belmont. Is one they have that under consideration, so maybe look out for him later. But for Admire Daytona here, this is one that if we had done the show 2 days after the race, I think that I probably would have been like, I'm not a big fan of him. Now that we've had some time, maybe this is just because we talked to Kate yesterday.
This is the recency bias.
But I like the way that he dug in, he fought back, he got headed multiple times, and he still just dug in, gave it his all in the one. And you've seen you've seen that be successful in the past. Those horses that have been able to kind of just battle back, just show all that heart. And remember, that's a mile and 3/16 that he ran there. Right. That's with that in the Louisiana Derby. Those are tied for the longest prep races that we have. So we know he can do that at a mile and a 3/16. Can he do it at a mile and a quarter? My one question with him, pace wise, is he's going to have the Baffords to deal with probably in the lead. He might have East Avenue to deal with on the lead. I'd imagine off of that race, they're going to try to go for the lead with him. So I'm a little concerned that he's going to get a little bit too much pressure in the Derby, but I think definitely, I don't think he was as impressive in winning the UAE Derby as your Derma Sotogake was, but I do like this performance.
Well, Dermot talk. I also am very biased by having seen him now.
Yeah, that's the other thing too.
But when I watched the UAE Derby, I wasn't turned on by it. It didn't do it for me. Yeah, whatever that is. And so I just, watching this down the stretch though, like you said, there's nothing to really pick apart here. He's still developing as a 3-year-old. So if he's being a little, kind of loafing once in a while, that's just young horse syndrome essentially, right? And so I don't know what to take away from him. And I think with an American jock, perhaps, are they going to stick with a Japanese connection here? Do you know?
I remember we asked Kate yesterday. I think they're still kind of on
figuring out who's going to ride this horse.
It sounds like they like having Christophe Lemaire on him though.
Yeah, well, that's fine. That's good. That one's okay for me because that's a guy who's got experience all over the place. For him that way, great. If he's able, for example, I don't think you could throw the blinkers on this horse because I think he saw the challenge to the side and then he reacted to it. And so I don't think you can throw the blinkers on and make him faster. I think he's just going to have to get to race day and be the best.
Yeah.
And that's a hard ask, man. That's just a hard ask. And like you said, what's interesting too, we were concerned there wasn't going to be any front running speed in the Derby after many preps. I think we're up to 5 front runners now.
Yeah.
So a quarter of the field is likely front runners.
How quick everything changes.
Well, number one, but also number two, this is a stunningly balanced field as well. Yeah. Where we're going to have 5 front runners, 10 mid-pack, or maybe 5 mid-pack, and then 10 closers. I mean, it's just the back of the field is going to have to do incredible running, but they're going to have something to run at. We always assume in these big stake races, Sean, that there's not going to be a hot pace or that anything else, whatever. There's always a hot pace.
Oh, yeah.
These jockeys all want the lead. They all want to get out there. There's 150,000 people yelling at them. They're going to go get the lead. But,
and, at one point it looked like it was only going to be the Baffert horses on the lead. Right. So it was like, well, maybe it is going to be a slow pace because they're not going to go after each other. Now that you put Admire Daytona in, now that you put East Avenue in, in that pace scenario, it's going to be decent up front.
And we've seen East Avenue. There is no other option for that horse. He has to go. If he gets behind horses, he's like, I'm good. I'll stay back here.
Yep.
And so he's got to go, and that'll be absolutely part of it. All right, the Fukuryu was in Japan a couple of weeks ago as well. We're going to watch this one here.
Just for our audio listeners, if you're not watching the video, just be aware this one is in Japanese, but he is winning by a lot. So that's what you need to know about Luxor Cafe.
Just spectacular sound about that.
この後ろ内目にゴールデンクラウド直線コースへと向かってきます。逃げる4番のイサナですが外から11番ルクソールカフェあっという間にかわして先頭に立って突き放す200を切りました。2番手一気に広がってイムホテブ内からは1番ゴールデンクラウド外から名将随分も追い込んできますが差は開く一方11番ルクソールカフェ6馬身リードルクソールカフェ圧勝ゴールイン
52 and change over the mile and an eighth there. Gosh, now I'm forgetting the name of the racetrack there. But in the Fukuryu Stakes there, I love the late kick on this horse.
Oh,
and I know it's late. I know, slow, whatever. Okay. He's kicking it late in the last eighth of a mile. I'm good. He looks incredible to me. He's top 5-6 for me.
And I don't care too much about the time because as you'll see in our interview with Kate here in a little bit, the Japanese tracks are a little bit different. It's a little bit deeper out there. And so I don't put too much into that time for that. And I mean, he won easy. I would say this is by far, you think about the horses that have run in the Derby qualifying off the Japanese road. We've had a lot of Japanese horses in the Derby, but most of them have come from the UAE Derby. But Master Fencer came from this route. Last year we had Kyo Password come from this route. Out of those horses that have accepted the invitation from Japan and come over, I thought this was the most impressive prep race of the Japan-based prep races we've seen.
That means you're going to be including him in tickets then.
Oh, I'm definitely including him in tickets.
Right.
Yeah, I really like this horse. I liked his win in the Hyacinth, and we just talked about.
That's the other part of this, by the way. Yeah. This isn't his first rodeo. Terrible analogy, but his first time winning in graded 6 company, right? This is not his first attempt at these things. The Hyacinth was not as impressive, but he's developing, and if this is part of the development, and he takes a step forward in the Derby, he's winning.
Yeah, and behind him in the Hyacinth was Admire Daytona.
That's right.
And Don in the Mood, who was 3rd in the UAE Derby. Now, Admire Daytona, it sounded like probably had a little bit of a starting issue in the where he just got off slow in the Hyacinth, which is he was further back than. So another reason why I feel like he's going to go to the pace in the Derby is because he didn't run as well coming from off the pace that day. But they also faced each other in a maiden race, and they were head and head. Luxor Cafe came out on that one. So if you like Admire Daytona at all, you got to love Luxor Cafe coming in. Yeah. And I like him a lot too because he's American Pharaoh colt. So
we're
gotta love that.
We're seeing it over and over again for sure on that Japanese trail. And when you talk Fukuryu and you talk the UAE Derby and you talk a couple of Japanese champs in Luxor Cafe and of course Admire Daytona, you have to talk Kate Hunter. And you and I caught up with her yesterday at Churchill Sunday morning outside the quarantine barn. You and I, good soldiers, good citizens, staying outside the USDA fence there at Churchill Downs. A loud guy in Admire Daytona. He was so excited to get out of there. And oh my gosh, I get to go walk around and do all the things, get out of my stall.
He was making a lot of noise. And I'll tell you, it wasn't just yesterday. He was doing it today too.
Well, there you go. And Kate was saying too, he's one of those. He did it. I think her term was that, he did that in UAE too. We hope it's a good sign for what can happen here too.
If he's doing that, he's feeling good.
That's exactly right. But if you have ever wondered what it takes to get a Japanese horse to the starting gate of the Kentucky Derby, boy, do I have great news for you. Listen to Kate Hunter here in our BloodHorse interview for the week. Her name is Kate Hunter. She joined us yesterday at Churchill Downs. All right, welcome backside Churchill Downs. BloodHorse Monday. Louie, Rabaut, Sean Collins hanging out with Kate Hunter here at Churchill. We saw Admire Daytona spread his wings and fly a little over the mile chute here at Churchill Downs. Of course, here at the quarantine barn. Kate, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome in. Where were you most recently before you got to Louie?
I came straight from Dubai with the connections of Admire Daytona.
All right, so world traveler Kate Hunter with us is how I probably should have started this. All right, tell people who you are. You have a very unique spot in our sport. I got to meet you last year. I know Sean has met you before as well. What is it that Kate Hunter does?
Well, my main role overall is helping Japanese horses travel overseas, particularly the United States. I'm the Asia representative for Churchill Downs, the Breeders' Cup. I also am the Japan field rep for Keeneland, so I help buyers go over there. I've worked with Naira, Stronach Group, all those guys trying to get more and more Japanese participation over here in the United States.
Well, over the years, we've seen this now our fourth consecutive year with Japanese horses. A couple of years now where we've had multiple Japanese horses in the race. So, just how has Japan really just the last 5 to 10 years kind of taken this international travel?
Well, it's been something they've been growing to, I think, even since the early 90s. And the boom really started to explode, I think, COVID probably set it back a teensy wee bit, but it was starting to grow then when, Master Fencer came over here. I feel like, especially for the United States, having some targeted marketing has really helped to kind of increase their interest over here, because there's so much. The European races have that kind of long-term prestige that on the grass, which is obviously Japan's main surface. So being able to target the dirt horses, I think, has been a major uptick. Been part of the reason there's such a major uptick in participation coming over here. And they also have that opportunity in Saudi Arabia and Dubai now to try out that dirt surface, and it gives them more confidence when they come over to the United States. Kate Hunter with us here, BloodHorse Monday, backside Churchill Downs, outside the quarantine barn, Admire Daytona, stretching his legs this morning. We know what you do, but how did you get into this? I think it's a unique story as far as how one even decides to do this. Where do you live, etc.? How does Kate Hunter get into all of this? Well, initially it was a mix of Silver Charm and Sailor Moon, and those things being an odd combination that sent me to college to learn Japanese. And when I was over there studying abroad, I learned that Silver Charm was sold to Japan. Most people's reaction to a horse being sold overseas is tears, but I'm like, oh, I'm over here. And so it kind of gave me that opportunity to go visit him. And so when I moved there, I kind of went out on my own gumption to try and become a freelance photographer just out of the blue. I wasn't a very good one. But I was the only American over there, and so I was able to kind of wiggle my way in.
Well, Silver Charm's now here in the United States at Old Friends Farm. Do you get to go see him every time that you come out here?
Not every time, but I do see him every year. So I make it a purpose that if I haven't seen him by the November sale, that's the last thing I do before I leave Kentucky.
Well, we have two horses coming from Japan this year, Admire Daytona, who won the UAE Derby, and Luxor Cafe, who is the #1 point earner on the Japan road to the Kentucky Derby. Let's start with Admire Daytona, since he's the one that's here. He's the one we saw this morning. Just how has he settled in so far?
He settled in great. He arrived. The first thing he did when he arrived, he just ate all of his feed. He was really, really hungry. He was always chipper and ate and drank up until he was released. And so we gave him another day off because they just kind of felt like after such a long trip, maybe another day off, not going to the track would be a good idea. So today was his first day out, just stretching his legs, getting to know the place a little bit before they put any pressure on him.
And how did he respond to Churchill Downs? Obviously, Dubai a different place than here, the weather, whatever else, the environs in general. How did he respond here?
Well, unlike the people, I think the horse likes the weather. So, because we're coming from a 90-degree weather spike in Dubai, so we're like, brr, but I think he's very happy to be in a less slightly cooler environment. Today, he behaved himself quite well. Mike Crowder is our go-to pony guy, and he took good care of him. Just taking him out there to the chute to warm up a little bit, and so far so good.
Sean recognized Mike from last year, actually, so it's nice that
he's
been kind of a pattern here.
He's been doing that a couple of years now with the Japanese horses. Well, just kind of tell us a little bit, when Admire Daytona first gets here, he's got to go through those 2 days of quarantine, and he's still living in the quarantine barn even though he's coming out to train every day. So just kind of tell us a little bit about what that process is like for all the Japanese horses that come over.
Well, the basic quarantine, you've got 42 to 48 hours where they've got blood drawn on arrival, and so waiting for those blood tests to come back to make sure they are not carrying any weird diseases. That's why you're kind of just in there waiting. You take bloods to make sure there's no fever, no temperature, anything like that. So take their temperature every couple of hours, twice a day. And then it's usually pretty easy, then you're open and free to go. We're still in quarantine because currently it's currently under review, so hopefully within a year it'll be different. There's a lack of one test that they don't do in Japan that they can do in Europe. It's called it's a CEM. It's like basically a horse STD test. And since they can't do it, they have to stay in special quarantine. Not quarantine, but it's isolation. So they can't join the general population for fear of accidental spreading of an STD, which they won't have, but it's just basically paperwork and box checking at this point. But hopefully if we get that test, then he could go somewhere over there if he wanted to.
And you talk about going somewhere over there. This is something we talked about last year with the two runners, Tio Password, of course, and Forever Young. Over here, and obviously outside of the view of the camera in front of us, they're surrounded by pavement essentially here, right? As opposed to the horses here that we see walking so often, either on some mulch or something like that. How much of a disadvantage do you think this is? Two in the top 5 last year. It didn't appear to be much of one last year, but what do you think?
Well, the Japanese people really, really like it. They like how quiet it is, how separated from all the hustle and bustle it is. We've got a wash bay, which the Japanese horses aren't particularly good at standing and washing because they tie the horses up in Japan. They've got multiple wash stalls at the training centers there, so they're not used to being held, and so they like to move around. And so it becomes quite a hassle. Right. So that we've got a little wash bay in there, and they kind of like having their own private, quiet space. So as long as we've got at least 2 horses in there, they really, really like it, and the horses don't seem to dislike it either.
Okay. I remember seeing Derma, Sotogake, and Continuare. They seemed like they were best buddies out here all the time.
Yeah.
So they seem to always like having that partner out here. Well, as far as the racetrack is concerned here at Churchill Downs, how does it compare to what they've seen in Japan? How does it compare to what Admire Daytona has seen in Dubai? Just kind of how does the surface kind of match up?
I think the surface changes will always be a little bit more difficult for the Japanese than anything else because they run on such deep, soft, slippery sand in Japan. But that's why I typically like to look at horses and see how they run on off dirt in Japan. So if it's rained in Japan, you're more likely to see a horse that they excel like Luxor Cafe has on multiple of his races where it rained, so it was a little bit, the sand became firmer. That speaks highly of his ability to then adapt to the track over here. Or anywhere in particular. I think that probably the Dubai track might be a little more forgiving than some of the American dirt tracks, but we'll see how it goes. So.
You mentioned some of that direct marketing to the Japanese. Last year, we see 2 horses in the top 5 of the Kentucky Derby finishing order. What's more important, do you think, that marketing or success? Or is it a combination? What do you think?
Oh, the success definitely. That's free marketing.
Correct.
So we always like free marketing. No, but oddly enough, the Japanese, despite their reputation for being a very tech-savvy country, love faxes and letters in the mail. And so every couple of months, or every month, I'm usually sending out some mailing letter to about 300 Japanese people, a lot of licking envelopes. But I've had massive success with it, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I learned from Seinfeld, don't buy the cheap envelope. So make sure you don't do that.
Yes.
Okay. We'd like to see you next year.
I've gotten the ones where you can just pull a little tab and seal them. I like a few too many paper cuts.
I'm sure.
So.
Well, we've mentioned Luxor Cafe. I feel like for a lot of fans in America, a lot of them watch the UAE Derby. They maybe know Admire Daytona a little bit better. Just tell us a little bit about Luxor Cafe. I know he beat Admire Daytona a few starts ago. Twice. So just tell us a little bit about him and how he's coming over.
Well, I think the fact that both of these horses have been up against each other multiple times kind of really adds to both horses' credentials coming into this race. When in the maiden race that they were against, they were fighting back and forth with each other. It was just a narrow loss for Daytona. And then after that, obviously, Luxor Cafe has really blossomed and really become quite the force in Japan. And so, like, the Japanese public seem to be pretty excited about the possibility of him coming over. And I think that with the Hyacinth Stakes, where you look at, I talked to the assistant trainer, like, what happened in the Hyacinth? Like, he was so far back, like, what happened? He's like, he missed the break, basically. Yeah. And so didn't get to really run the race that he wanted to run. And the others, Christophe Lemaire wasn't on him. Christophe and him have like this connection where they can really like pull the best out of each other. And so Christophe's committed to ride this Kentucky Derby. So
that's Admire Daytona.
Yes, Admire Daytona. Sorry. So there's your
breaking news.
So I'm on that flip. But so you've got that. That's how much you feel confident in this horse to be able to give up a ride in the 10-0 show, which then propels you to think like, oh well, now you've got to look at the performances of Luxor Cafe, because if he's done this well, then what's Luxor going to do? Yeah. So and Mr. Horry doesn't travel unless he thinks he's got a good shot. He's hard to direct market to. So it's like he does what he wants. And right now he wants to come to Kentucky Derby.
You're telling me the Sailor Moon stationery isn't working with him?
Yeah,
is that?
I might need to change that up a little bit.
Okay, all right, okay, there you go.
Well, talk just a little bit. Forever Young comes over. He gets beat just a few inches to win the whole thing. I know that was probably tough for you guys. But when you get back to Japan, what was the public and the racing community's reception to him coming back? Is there like a little bit more of a renewed sense of we can actually pull this off at some point? We can win the Kentucky Derby.
I felt that mostly with the horsemen in particular, who I deal with on a regular basis. They're like oh man, I like Northern Farm and all those guys are like, I might be able to actually do this. So it was a pretty exciting moment, I think, for all Japanese that are invested in those kind of international events and the Kentucky Derby in particular. I know that for the love of Forever Young is probably, he's one of the most popular horses in Japan right now, which is rare because the dirt horses usually don't get that popular. I think Ushba Tesoro with his quirks was kind of up there, and I love Olivia. But Forever Young, I mean, he's just such a cool customer, and just he just has so much confidence that like all the fans just really like him. I'm so excited they're going to make a little plushie for him. So he's got his 2 Group 1s. So by the fall, I should have a bunch of them to carry around.
So you're going to be bringing them over for next year's Derby, right?
Well, I have to give them out to all of our friends at the Saudi Cup first, and then I will bring a couple. Whatever I have left, I'll bring them back to the Kentucky next year when I've hopefully got some more.
All right, I'll be looking forward to that. I love getting the hats for all the Japanese horses. I had my Forever Young hat on when he won the Saudi Cup a couple months ago. Wore it to Turfway that night when I went up there. Everybody's like, "Oh, that's so cool!" And I was like, "Yeah, Forever Young." I love that horse.
So you'll see him again here at the Breeders' Cup later in the year.
Good.
So that's their end of year target.
When guys like us based in Kentucky, we're thinking about the Derby. He thinks about it every minute of every day. Sean's just like that. We start that trail in September, and we see on the website the European path. We see the Japanese path. How much have the Japanese gotten into it? Is it something that they've done a good job, Churchill Downs, other entities, of making people aware that, hey, the Fukuryu is going to happen here. This is something that you should pay attention to. Have they done a good job of that, you think?
Well, that's my job to do, so I hope so. Well, I send out monthly newsletters to all the trainers and a lot of the big ownership groups, letting them know, what's coming up. And I think the first notifications I started about that are actually in late summer, when their 2-year-olds are really starting to kick off. So, it's really important to make sure that they know very quickly, to know that when they got to nominate, when those cutoffs are, because like Daytona here, he didn't nominate until the day after he won the UAE Derby. So it's like, save some money, nominate early. And we had a record number this year, so we had, I think, over 50. So it's getting higher and higher each year, and I think that just shows the interest and the impact that the Kentucky Derby has in the Triple Crown as a whole.
So, we saw Mandarin Hero a couple of years ago come over and run second in the Santa Anita Derby to qualify for the Kentucky Derby. He was on the AE list, but he ended up drawing in. You mentioned the test earlier. Once that gets approved, is that going to open the door for more things like that? The Japanese coming over for the American Preps, coming over for older horse races like the Whitney or maybe some of our turf races. Is that something that maybe is in the future once that happens?
Yes, absolutely. That's one of the reasons I've been pushing it so hard with the JRA and everybody else. And the racetracks have been super helpful, helping me try and, on a more senior level than myself, express the need for it. Because at the moment, the quarantine can cost between $25,000 to $30,000 a month for the CEM, because the vet has to follow you the whole time. It's a lot of time the vet has to spend, and it's a lot of money. And the Japanese don't really want to spend it, and the tracks don't really want to spend it, and so trying to figure out how we're going to do that. So it's really hard, except for these major events like the Derby and the Breeders' Cup. There's just that vacuum where no one wants to spend that money. No one can spend that money in some situations, or no one can build the quarantine facility like a Del Mar. Their summer meet's so popular. There's no room for a whole barn to be isolated, and that's not Del Mar's fault. So being able to change some of these rules with just a simple test, I think will really open the door to Japanese participation, because I've had horses wanting to go to the Whitney. I've had them wanting to go to the Travers, to the
Pacific Classic, maybe.
Yeah, to the Pacific Classic. But Forever Young was kind of interested in that, thinking about that, or thinking about the California Crown, and thinking about all of these different races. But just looking at the cost of it, it really is a setback, I think, for the Japanese. And if we can get this passed, which it looks like hopefully in the next year or so we will, I think I don't imagine it would be the floodgates, but I think we'll get a lot more horses here. And I'm one of those. I hope to have a quarter of the Kentucky Derby field at one point. That's
Nice.
my ultimate
Let's
goal.
go. We're into it.
I was going to ask, we're going to see all 20 horses get Japanese horses. Just
Let's
guarantee
go.
we're going to get that win at some point.
I might have to try that, but I don't know if I can do all of them, but I will definitely go for at least 5. Would be awesome.
Well, I love hearing this progress on this testing, because it was something when we spoke last year that you were very passionate about, but it felt like in the interview, at least, Kate, that you felt like almost you were hitting your head against the wall about it. Did something happen this year that there was a breakthrough? Was it Derby success by chance that was part of it?
It was actually just the number of horses we got at the Breeders' Cup. So we had so many horses, and it finally became clear to both the JRA, to the JRA, that it was time to make some movements. And so we're really thankful that they've been willing to work with us on this finally and move things ahead. I know it's a hard suspect, because you always have to talk to the government. You have to get all the departments of agriculture. So it's a slow process. But just getting the ball rolling, it's been really awesome that the JRA has been helping us with that.
Well, great. Well, she's Kate Hunter. When does your other guy get here? When's Luxor Cafe showing?
Luxor Cafe, he arrives in the United States on the 21st, I think, but he will get here by van on the 23rd is the plan.
They still flying into Chicago? Is that still
Yes,
the preferred route?
Well, that's the only way that the plane goes. So we were very lucky this year that one of Sheikh Mohammed's planes was able to fly the horses from Dubai directly here to Louisville. I think that's a huge thing. It's not always the case. So hopefully Sheikh Mohammed will continue that practice going forward, because all the Derby horses that get invited, especially by the New European Middle Eastern Road, I think that it'd be a huge advantage to them, and help hopefully the UAE Derby eventually lead to a Kentucky Derby winner.
Awesome. Well, she's Kate Hunter. How do people find you? I know people want to find you.
Please don't find me.
Don't find her. Subscribe to the Sailor Moon channel instead.
All right, and thanks to Kate Hunter for joining us yesterday. Kate McCade, if you will, on Twitter and all those things over at Churchill Downs outside the quarantine barn. You saw the Twin Spires in the background there, at least the big board behind us there at Churchill Downs.
And the dorms and the bars.
Yeah, all the things. That's exactly right. But just a unique story, just into Japanese culture as a kid, decides to study that, obviously loves horse racing, ends up living in Japan, becomes this incredible ambassador. And all the little things, Sean, I was thinking about this overnight. One of my favorite things is her understanding of Japanese culture and the value of sending actual paper letters.
Yeah.
And sending paper communique, right? Where that still has real value to the Japanese. And I want to be really clear. When someone sends me a birthday card, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate the text message, but at the same time, if someone goes out of their way to send me a card or something. So I understand at least the sentiment there. But I thought it's those kinds of little things that you don't, I don't even want to think about it, but how important is it, right?
It's
It's obviously incredibly important. Yeah, it's interesting, right?
Yeah, because I mean, you look at these prep races, and you can award points to any race you want, but if you're not really, kind of advertising the route to get there,
right.
People aren't going to really see it as an option. And so to have somebody over there who's passionate about it, who knows all the ins and outs, because it's not just convincing them to come over here. She's the one that's in charge of getting them set up with the USDA, getting them set up with all the paperwork and all that stuff. So she's very involved with the whole process. She's going out there and watching them train every day, and I believe reporting back to the trainers, kind of giving them a heads up on how the horse is doing and all that stuff. So she's very involved with every single one of them. And I feel like without that kind of presence that she has over there, we probably don't see. Maybe we see a Japanese horse every once in a while, but we don't have where we're now 3 years in a row with multiple Japanese horses.
I think she eases some concerns for many people.
Yeah.
Right. That, we have this person to handle those things. Great. Because when I even joke, like, is Churchill doing a good, not even joke, is Churchill doing a good job here? And she's like, that's not their job. It's my job.
Yeah. She's the one that does it for him.
No, that's right. But like, if you're Churchill, you love to hear that. If you're the Japanese, trainers and connections, whatever, you love to hear that, right? That she's willing to personally take these things on.
Yeah.
I think people don't know that this whole story. I'm very glad we got to talk to her.
Yeah, and it's just you think about the Japanese, or their relation to Sunday Silence, as how important he is. Winning the Kentucky Derby for them would be such a big deal. Yeah. And they almost got it last year. And to just see how excited they are to come over here. It seems like over there in Japan, dirt racing has now kind of taken on a larger focus because they're turf based over there. But I think it was last year for the first time, they actually put together a Japan Dirt Triple Crown series to kind of rival their turf one.
Yep.
And so, and she mentioned, Forever Young's now one of the most popular horses over there. So you're seeing where, dirt racing is becoming a bigger presence for them over there. They're participating on the dirt on the world scale. And a lot of that has to come from her. And, you think about just the small thing of just making sure that they know when they have to nominate the horse by.
Right.
Imagine if Admire Daytona won the UAE Derby and didn't realize he only had 2 days to submit the late nomination fee. And then he misses that, and then they probably don't come over. So it's having somebody there who's keeping track of everything, in constant communication with everybody. She plays such a big role. She's one of those people that, you don't see her on TV when you're watching the race.
That's right.
You don't read about her too much, other than maybe a quick mention of her name, translating comments from somebody on the team. But she is probably the most important part of getting Japanese horses here and in the starting gate for the Derby.
At least making those connections comfortable. And thank you, Kay, for, if you're watching, we appreciate you jumping on. I always laugh because she's always like, "Oh, I'm not a really." She's a great interview.
Yeah, she's a great interview. Yeah, that was great.
She's tremendous. Yeah. No, I've interviewed lousy interviewees. You're not allowed to Kay at all.
We get pretty lucky on this show. We've had a lot of great guests.
I agree. Right? Also, if BloodHorse Monday bump is coming, we're going to get another 2 Japanese finishers in the top 5, which of course we had last year with Forever Young and T.O. Password. You ever hear the thing where a basketball player gets compared to a guy from a previous era and they kind of look the same?
Yeah.
What I don't want us to start doing is Admire Daytona, he reminds me of Dermasoda Gake. He reminds me of Mandarin. We need to not do that. Right? Let's just compare them to other horses. It doesn't have to just be one that came off the Japanese trail, but plenty, of course, of good things happening down in Florida right now, where the seeds of success are planted in the spring. And nowhere do buds of talent bloom more than at the OBS April sale of 2-year-olds in training. 9 graduates from OBS April have won Grade 1 races since 2024, including the Champaign and Hopeful Stakes. The most recent is Cavalieri out west in that prestigious Beholder Mile. 2-year-old source of the world is fertile ground for victory. See who blossoms next at the OBS Spring Sale happening this week, April 15 through 18 as well. And down there on the ground for us is Olivia Newman from BloodHorse. You can find all of her stuff at bloodhorse.com. Of course, head over to the website. Great coverage of the OBS sales going on right now. Our NFL draft, our NFL combine, if you will, of the 2-year-olds there. She speaks with Todd Wojciechowski, who is the director of sales of OBS. We hear from them now.
We would like to welcome into the show Todd Wojciechowski. Thank you for joining us. He's the director of sales here at OBS. How did the Undertack show go last week, Todd?
Well, thanks for having me, Olivia. We were really happy with the Undertack show. We got very lucky with the weather. Matter of fact, we're continuing to enjoy great weather here right now. A little cooler in April than most people are used to here in Florida, but very fortunate. I thought it was great from start to finish.
What are your thoughts going into the sale as a general market coming off the March sale? And also, could you talk about the growth of the April sale? It's really become the world's 2-year-old sale. There's a great international buying bench here.
Yeah, we were very fortunate. We had a great March sale. Set a record with highest selling horse ever, $3 million gun runner that Eddie Wood sold. Even though you see things in the news that maybe not as always encouraging to racing, people are still looking for good racehorses. And fortunately, they're finding them here at the 2-year-old sales at OBS.
OBS grads have done really well lately. Tenma in the Santa Anita Oaks. Sandman won the Arkansas Derby. Could you just talk a little bit about that, what it means to have a horse on the Oaks and the Derby trail, and good ones at that?
Well, it's pretty exciting. We've had Derby winners and we've had Oaks winners before, but it's always exciting this time of year to have some of your graduates on the trail, and not only on the trail, but really in the hunt for the Derby and the Oaks. So that's very gratifying. And then, Dark Saffron continued a legacy for OBS in the Dubai Golden Shaheen, the Grade 1 on World Cup Day. That's a 10th win of the Dubai Golden Shaheen for OBS grads over there. So, yeah, it's an exciting time. It's really fun when it's happening while we're getting ready to have the sale. So it's good timing.
Definitely. I was also going to ask you about the first crop sires. They've been received really well. What first crop sires have stood out to you with the way they performed in the Undertax show?
Wow, yeah. There was a number of those first-year sires that I thought performed exceptionally well in the Undertax show. Yalpon, Maxfield, Independence Hall, Silver State, just to name a few. But I think all of the first crop sires are going to be well received here.
Touching on something that's been an issue here in Florida, the decoupling. I know there is a Senate meeting tomorrow. Tom Ventura, the president of OBS, is planning on attending. Could you just touch on that a little bit?
Yes, that is an issue that all of racing should be and has been paying attention to, and can have a dramatic effect on all of racing and establish a very bad precedent for the industry. We have attended a House committee meeting. We've attended one Senate committee meeting. They scheduled this other one tomorrow. I fear mainly because they knew it was during our April sale, and it may cut down on the amount of people that might be able to travel to Tallahassee to be there and voice their opposition to it. But they are holding a Senate committee meeting tomorrow. As you mentioned, Tom is going among other horsemen from here. So we are continuing to voice our opposition to it. Trying to get the Florida legislature to understand that while we understand a long-term solution needs to be bargained, it's a little hard to have a conversation with a gun to your head.
Yeah.
So we're urging our legislators to kill this bill, allow us the time to sit down and craft a long-term solution.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us, and wish you the best of luck this week at the sale.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, and thanks to Olivia and Todd for joining us from down there at OBS Sales. Again, BloodHorse.com for all of our sales coverage on the site. Very, very easy and good resource for all of the happenings down there. At least they are getting good weather this time. Yes. If people remember previous episodes here, we were really concerned about wind conditions for those 2-year-old workouts.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot smoother sailing this time. And so, look, lifeblood of the industry is still finding the next horse, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's at the claiming level or the Derby level, whatever it might be, but finding that next horse. Certainly, if you're trying to find the top, people are heading OBS, and you were telling me even you're seeing people with Derby horses jetting for OBS.
Yeah, this is the fun part of the industry. We're less than 20 days until the Kentucky Derby, and everybody's already thinking about next year's Kentucky Derby. I remember, I was talking to Lonnie Briley for Coal Battle, his trainer, a couple times, and he was showing me, what he looks for inside of the catalog, and he was excited to go down there, hoping to come back. He started talking about trying to come back next year with a Derby horse, but he flew out this morning to go down there to OBS. Talked to Kyle Zorn of Legion Bloodstock right after Flying Mohawk had his workout. Right after I interviewed him, he left to go get on a flight to go down to OBS. So everybody's excited to head down there, even though, everybody's focused on trying to win the Derby this year. We can't get behind on trying to win the Derby next year. We got to make sure we're keeping pace with everybody else.
Keep up with the Joneses here. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
The Joneses meaning other connections. That's right.
Yes.
Got to be me in the winner's circle. That's right. But a guy who writes a lot for the Blood Horse and for BloodHorse.com, the magazine, all the things. His name is Frank Angst. Joins us for our weekly dollars and cents segment with him. I guess not always weekly.
Yeah, we give him a day off every once in a while.
There you go. Yeah, Frank, how was it taking a break? Because we don't know. I'm just kidding. All right. That's good. Well, good. Tell us what's going on the site this week. Of course, we always promote the magazine. Get that piece of paper in your hands, like a good betting slip, something like that at your house. Listen, let's just make the coffee table look nice. We got to do what you got to do. But Frank Angst joins us. Little dollars and cents. What's going on this week?
Yeah, it won't be long for that magazine, the May issue, to go out here soon.
Right.
With the dollars and cents column will run in BH Daily, our daily news, free daily newsletter. It'll come out in the issue that goes out tonight, dated tomorrow morning, whichever way you want to read it. And the idea had kind of been bouncing around in my head for a while to move a little bit away from the 3-year-olds is just how deep this year's older horse divisions are, specifically on the male side. I mean, it's tremendous that Torpedo Anna has come back and it's already put 2 nice wins together as horse of the year. But and we've been fortunate to see some of the older fillies and mares come back at 4 and 5 and 6. But we haven't seen it as much on the male side. The breeding is obviously a huge draw, and it's a chance if you get a horse like that, you want to contribute to the breed and be on that end. But for this year, the older horse division's really strong, and in terms of dollars and cents, what I was thinking of is really nice now is we have these big race days. Top big race day tied to the Derby weekend, really. Big race day tied to the Belmont Stakes, to a lesser extent the Preakness, and then throughout the year. And I really think that and the Breeders' Cup Challenge Series will be a way to promote these horses, market these horses, because you have people that aren't watching the sport constantly. They get familiar with a horse like Mystic Dan, and then they tune in the next year, and that horse is no longer there. But good news, it's the exception this year. Mystic Dan is back. He's still trying to find his best stride, but I'm sure Kenny will get that done. He's going to enter in a race at Oaklawn on Derby Day, so he'll be back. We have the last 2 Breeders' Cup Classic winners are both in training in Sierra Leone and White Barrio.
Yeah,
that's pretty big.
That's amazing.
That the top 3 finishers that were in the Derby photo finish are all back.
That's amazing.
Already mentioned Mystic Dan and Sierra Leone, and you guys earlier were talking about Forever Young, and all he is the highest rated horse in the world right now.
That's it.
And they're pointing for a return to the Breeders' Cup, where again the top 3 finishers from last year's Classic are all coming back. Already mentioned Sierra Leone and Forever Young, but Fierceness is also back. So Fierceness was the 2-year-old champion 2 years ago, and Sierra Leone was the 3-year-old champion. So these horses have checked off big accomplishments. And then you get into Mind Frame, who placed in the Belmont Stakes, Chasing Freedom, who placed in the Preakness Stakes. They're both back. Then if that wasn't enough, the international race season on dirt has provided 2 more U.S. horses in Hit Show and Mixto, who ran 2 in Dubai. Rattle and Roll on a Group 2 or Group 3 over in Saudi. So it's just a really accomplished division, and hopefully racing takes some advantage of that to remind these horses, remind the casual fans that turn in for the Derby or turn in for the Belmont, hey, the Alashiba is a pretty good race.
Right.
These are horses I'm familiar with. Yeah. And the Met Mile is a really good race. And I mean, we all know that. But casual fans, it's a chance that hopefully they see that going on and they see these horses are back and continue to follow the sport throughout the year.
I love that you're talking, the colt side of things, but even just Friday at Keeneland, these horses are running in the double dog there. Just FYI, Tarifa, Candied, and a colt. So even on the filly and mare side, we're seeing a significant, Sean. We're seeing a significant return. Now, I do other work and my main, other podcasts, Horse Racing Happy Hour. One of the things we encourage people to do is fall in love with the fillies because they race longer. But now what Frank is talking about, that came about because there was frankly just even a half decade ago, this was unimaginable that this many older Durham males would be running at this level, frankly, at the same time. But the filly mare side doing great as well. But I mean, Frank's totally right here. It's awesome to watch these old horses.
Yeah, it is. And you got a race like this weekend, like the Oaklawn Handicap, where you got horses like Skippy Longstocking and Disarm and First Mission. Those horses that maybe haven't broken through at the grade 1 level yet, but they're constant participants. Yes. They're constantly winning those grade 2s and grade 3s, and so they're really kind of rounding out the division as well. It's a pretty good older horse division right now.
All right. Well, he's got a great.
I didn't even get to the horse that I used the photo of, which is is Locked, who so impressive at the end of last year, second in the Pegasus, and then really turned I already knew, really turned everybody else's head in the Santa Anita handicap.
He was great.
He is really something to watch. So just a really exciting division, which is great to see. We haven't seen that, quite frankly, every year, but we welcome it now.
No, it's awesome to have all of the different levels, because we know once the summer hits, we're going to start watching the 2-year-olds as well, and we'll try to figure out through the Triple Crown what's going on, and obviously into the Traverse and the CCA Oaks and the Alabama and all those things as well. But yeah, the older dirt male, because what Frank said, we're going to get an added dimension, Sean, on these big race days, of better older dirt races, because for a little while they were lagging behind the quality of the other races.
Yeah, they were a little bit, but that's one of the strengths of these big race days now, is it's really become a showcase of every division. I think about look at Kentucky Oaks Day. They're gonna have the Edgewood Stakes. I think back to Nitrogen just winning the Appalachian at Keeneland this past week, and she looked fantastic. So you're gonna have your 3-year-old fillies on the turf in the spotlight. We're gonna have the La Troyenne, which probably is gonna have Torpedo Anna in it. It sounds like, and then you got races like the Churchill Downs Stakes with the sprinters, and the Derby City Distaff for the female sprinters. So you look at Belmont Day, you look at Kentucky Derby Day, and Frank's right. It's a big opportunity to kind of really push. Hey, there's more than just the 3-year-old division. Look at how good these horses are.
Yeah, it's become a spectacular thing. And the other thing that I like is that, Frank, you can speak on this too, just the mix on those big days, using Derby Day, for example, but to get, those high level turf races, those longer turf races or a turf sprint or something like that, it just does make for a really entertaining day.
Yeah. I mean, I'm an older generation, maybe. I've always been good with spreading those stakes out. But sure. I do think when you have these star horses come back, it is a way to reconnect those casual fans that are just picking this up and say, "Oh, Sierra Leone's still running." So that could be really exciting. And when these horses run on those actual big days, which is more and more frequent because that's where the stakes are concentrated.
Right.
That can definitely be a strength of that setup for sure.
There you go. Well, he's Frank Angst. Check him out, BloodHorse.com, of course, for all the good things happening there. Dollars and cents with him. And, of course, go subscribe to Blood Horse Daily and, of course, the Blood Horse magazine as well. Blood Horse Daily, though, it's just a nightly email, right, Frank?
Yeah, you just sign up for it on our website, and it's a free daily email with all the news on breeding, racing, sales.
No reason not to get it if it's free, Sean. There you go.
And especially at this time of year, and we're going to have all of our Derby coverage start coming up here pretty soon as well. This is if you haven't already subscribed, I don't know what you're doing if you haven't already subscribed, but this is the perfect time to do it.
Free.
It's free.
There you go. Thank you, Frank. We'll talk to you either next week or the week after.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Frank. There you go. All right, Frank. Bloodhorse and BloodHorse.com, of course. All the good things happening over there. Really appreciate Frank jumping on. I think Frank likes the podcast more than I do. How about that?
Yeah.
He's into it. No, it's all right. Do you know why he likes it more than I do? Because I got this green screen. Who's got that library?
I know. We haven't even talked about our new screen behind us.
Do you like it?
I do like it.
I like it too. I like the green. I'm sorry. I think we got a good logo.
Yeah.
Simple. It works.
Yeah.
I like simple, but
I like it a lot.
Yeah, there you go. Some good stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks, including the races that you mentioned. The Tessios this week.
Yeah.
At Laurel Park. And I wanted to talk about that in particular because I think one of the cool things, if you don't do it, I would suggest that you start somehow next year, maybe. But I watch the road to the Preakness every year, starting essentially in December, extra heat stakes, all that kind of stuff. And you get to know the Maryland horses. And look, let's be clear, 1983 deputed testimony, the last Maryland Tessio winner to win the Preakness Stakes. So it's very unlikely you're going to get the winner out of these prep races. But the Tessio this weekend, someone's going to win that race, and it's going to be, there's at least a good chance that it'll be the greatest race they ever win on the grandest stage in Maryland, something like that, right outside of the Preakness.
Gets them into the Preakness.
Gets them into the starting gate in the Preakness. And if you're a Maryland person, man, that's an unbelievable thing to be able to do. Right? Yeah. And I got to say this too. I see a lot online of people complaining about information costs and access to horse racing and what's going on in those things. What they're doing at the Maryland Jockey Club right now is the opposite of is solving all of those issues with information, different things. Dan Illman's taken over as the communications director there, does a great job. If you are looking for a spot to find a new branch out, it's one of the great things. You and I, you mentioned Lonnie Briley being there and then flying to OBS. He was talking with Corey Lannery, and that was a dialect of English that I'm very not around very often, right? And that's fine, but that's horse racing. right? Louisiana's its own thing. Maryland's its own thing. Kentucky's its own thing. And it's cool. It's cool that we come together for these big days, these big stakes days. I know Frank was talking about, I'm from a generation where I don't mind those things being spread out, but it forces all of us to get together on those big days too, which is a cool thing that's happened and developed. And look, horses run once a month now. It's different than it used to be, that kind of thing. And, but the Maryland thing, the Tessio this weekend, I'm really excited to get going on that. You can see our coverage on Thursday night on the Horse Racing Happy Hour show that I host as well. And Dan Illman, Callie Francois will be on the episode with me. So there you go.
I know it's one of the things that, everybody's kind of critiqued over the last couple of years is the horses coming back into Preakness. We haven't been getting a lot of Derby participation, so it's important to have races like the Tessio, like the Bathhouse Row Stakes at Oaklawn, that are kind of these late April. You're not going to make the Kentucky Derby.
The Lexington this last Saturday at Keeneland it turned out to be that way. Guess how many people scratched out? No one.
Yeah,
no one. Everyone is still looking at Baltimore, and I hope they'll all consider it very seriously.
I feel like all the people that just get on social media, it's easy to kind of rip the Preakness, but there's a lot of people. That's still one of the big 3 races to win in this country.
It's so fun to go to.
And it's so fun to go to. And, it's going to change over the next couple of years, with the new facility and stuff. But, this is still one of the premier races in the United States. And there's still, if you can't win the Derby, what race would you want to win? The Preakness, the Belmont. It's like those are the races that people want to win. And so when you have a chance for maybe some of these smaller connections, the big dogs are out of the way, they're on their way to the Derby. This is your opportunity to, see if you have what it takes to get into the Preakness.
Right.
And then you catch those horses coming back off 2 weeks rest. Maybe something happens and you end up winning the Preakness. So this is a big weekend for all those connections that are in those races.
Could not agree more with you. Yes. And so plenty to watch as we go through that Triple Crown, not just the first Saturday in May, which of course we're going to spend lots of time on, but it does extend after that, right? And look, your horse might develop at a different time than someone else's horse. And it's okay, by the way, to win a $2 million race. We're going to check in a $2 million race. You'll be fine if you do head to Baltimore. The other part about the Preakness, that stakes barn, chef's kiss, undefeated.
Oh,
spectacular.
That was the last year was the first year I had access to the barn area during the Preakness. Man, having everybody in the same there, 2 barns right next to each other, man, that was fun. So that's a great setup.
At Derby they offer us red carpet access, but it's really for like celebrities and that kind of stuff. The stakes barn in Pimlico is a real red carpet of horse racing.
Oh yeah,
it's Baffert, it's Jenny Reese, balling out of control. Like how it's a Jenny Reese second. How about that? How about like Kenny McPeak and his dog just walking around?
Yeah.
Talking to Baffert, talking to the coach, talking to whatever. I mean, it is a who's who right around that barn, especially once you get to like Thursday morning. Yeah, that kind of thing. Oh, awesome.
One of the cool things last year for me was the day after the Preakness, Sees the Gray standing out there getting a bath, and Dwayne Lucas and Bob Baffert are just hanging there, talking to each other, making jokes with each other.
Yeah.
Bob's congratulating him and everything, and it's just that's one of the cool things to see. Obviously I've spent a lot of time on Churchill's backstretch, but sometimes you don't get that close connection sometimes by the trainers because everybody's so spread out on that backstretch. So that's one of the really unique and cool things about Pimlico.
There you go. All right. Well, a couple preps there for the Preakness this coming weekend. Tessio and Bathhouse Row. We'll be getting into that. But of course, this is BloodHorse Monday. He's Sean. I'm Louie. We're going to wrap up the show here. I want to thank our friends at OBS for hanging out with us this week. But of course, we always want to remind you to subscribe to BloodHorse Magazine. QR code at the bottom there if you watch it on YouTube or on Spotify. You can check it out there. Get that. Make your coffee table look nice, people. What are we doing here?
People love getting the magazine. A Coal Battle was on the cover of the magazine a couple of, I guess, this past month. And as soon as I introduced myself to Lonnie Briley this week and I said I was from BloodHorse, the first thing he said was, "Oh, the Coal Battle's on the magazine. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet." And I brought him in a magazine the next day, and he was so happy. So, being on that cover still means something to a lot of people, and being in it at all means something to a lot of people. And one of the things when I was in high school, it's like I love getting the magazine every single time, and just being able to read through everything going on. So make sure you subscribe to that.
The other part is I hear people lament, "Oh, I don't get Sports Illustrated at my house," or "I can't get the sport." Oh my gosh, why am I'm blanking on the other major publications, but just the the Sporting News, something like that. I don't get that actual magazine to their house anymore. Good news. We can do that for you. BloodHorse Magazine. So go ahead and check that out. Find out the website as well. If you happen to be listening, driving around, whatever. Please don't pull up the QR code if you're driving your car, riding a horse or something. Yeah. So there you
can find it on the website after you're done driving.
All right, but we're going to get out of here for an April 14th edition. We'll be back next week before Derby week. Busy, of course. April 28th, we'll actually be out at Churchill Downs on the backside, doing the show from there, getting you ready for all things Derby week. that week as well. I'll have 6 days of radio coverage as well out there on ESPN Louisville. You're welcome to join me for that. Of course, BloodHorse and BloodHorse.com. You cannot miss. Tons of great coverage from people like Sean, Byron King, all the way up to Frank Angst. Tons and tons of good coverage of the Kentucky Derby. We'll get out of here. This has been BloodHorse Monday. I'm Louie. He's Sean. We'll see you next week.
The BloodHorse is dedicated to the improvement of thoroughbred breeding and racing for over 100 years. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and save BloodHorse Monday on all your platforms. For the latest news, analysis, and insights, visit us at bloodhorse.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.